And before we get to this evening's agenda, I would like to introduce our new board member, Mr. Rick Lanise. Congratulations and welcome, Rick.
Thank you very much.
Matt, turn it over to you.
Good evening, members of the planning board. Before I go over, can I just share my screen, Nicole? Before I go over the recessed matters, we got a letter of withdrawal today from Vincent Tremarco's office for item number 2. That's the waiver for map of core. So that item can basically be removed from the agenda. So the only item I have recommended to be recessed is the final subdivision number 1, number 1180, Old Dock Land Division.
Is there any questions from the board on this matter to be recessed? Any questions from anyone who's here at the meeting? Okay, nope. I move that we recess item 1 as read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So recessed.
Okay, the next item is, hold on one second, is an extension of conditional preliminary approval for the subdivision core land division in Kings Park. The applicant requests an extension of conditional preliminary approval for the subdivision number 1169, map of core land division. The subdivision number 1169, map of core land division, received conditional preliminary approval from the planning board on February 6, 2019. Preliminary approval of this subdivision expired on February 6, 2021. The applicant submitted a request for an extension, fourth extension on February 2nd, 2021. The planning department has no objection to the request and recommends a 6-month extension. The planning department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Planning board resolution number blank 2021, extension of conditional preliminary approval for number 1169, map of core land division. Whereas the planning board has considered the request of Donald J. King to extend the conditional preliminary approval for number 1169, map of core land division, for a period of 6 months. Now therefore be it first resolved that the planning board hereby grants a retroactive 6-month extension of time to the conditional preliminary approval for the subdivision number 1169, map of core land division, beginning February 6, 2021 to August 6, 2021.
Thank you, Matt. Is there anyone representing the applicant who would like to speak? And the affidavit of posting is in order?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to be heard on this matter? Any questions from the board? Okay, in the matter of number 1169, map of core land division, I move that we close the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? The hearing is closed. And in the matter of number 1169, map of core land division, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the planning department.
Second.
Oppose? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? None? Okay, the motion is adopted. Hey, Tom?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I was muted. The next item is an extension of conditional final approval for number 1156, map of open meadow. The applicant requests an extension of conditional final approval for the subdivision number 1156, map of open meadow. Subdivision number 1156, map of open meadow, received conditional final approval from the planning board on February 19th, 2020. The applicant received an extension of approval that expired on February 13th, 2021. The applicant submitted a request for a second extension on February 4th, 2021. The applicant indicated they need additional time in order to get Suffolk County Health Department approval and file the map in the office of the county clerk. The planning department has no objection to the request and recommends an extension period of 180 days. The planning department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Planning board resolution number blank 2021, extension of conditional final approval for number 1156, map of open meadow. Whereas the planning board has considered the request of Vincent J. Tramarco to extend the conditional final approval for the subdivision known as number 1156, map of open meadow. Now therefore be it first resolved that the planning board hereby approves a retroactive 180-day extension of time to the conditional final approval for the subdivision known as number 1156, map of open meadow, to expire on August 12th, 2021.
Thank you, Matt. Is there anyone representing the applicant who would like to be heard on this matter? Okay, any questions from the board? Okay, in the matter of number 1156, map of open meadow, I move that we close the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed. And in the matter of number 1156, map of open meadow, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the planning department.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion is adopted.
The next item is an extension of conditional final approval for number 1187, Bassin Estates. The applicant requests an extension of conditional final approval for the subdivision number 1187, map of Bassin Estates. The subdivision number 1187, map of Bassin Estates, received conditional final approval from the planning board on August 12th, 2020. This approval is valid for a period of 180 days.
This is like a joke.
Like a joke.
That expired on February 8th, 2021. The applicant submitted a request for an extension on February 5th, 2021. The applicant requires additional time in order to file subdivision and performance bond paperwork with the town. The planning department has no objection to the request and recommends an extension period of 180 days. The planning department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Planning board resolution number blank 2021, extension of conditional final approval for number 1187, map of Bassin Estates. Whereas the planning board has considered the request of Mitchell Bassin to extend the conditional final approval for the subdivision known as number 1187, map of Bassin Estates.
This is
Now therefore be it first resolved that the planning board hereby approves a retroactive 180-day extension of time to the conditional final approval for the subdivision number 1187, map of Bassin Estates, to expire on August 12th, 2021.
Thanks, Matt. Is there anyone representing the applicant who would like to speak? Is there anyone who would like to?
Sorry, Chairwoman, I just have somebody with their hand up, and I just want to make sure that their hand is raised for this application. I have Irene's iPad. You got to unmute yourself, Irene. Give her a second, sorry.
okay.
Are you looking to speak on this application, Irene?
You know, it wasn't this one. It was the one before and nobody noticed. I put the hand up and I tried to get it unmuted, but I didn't. So you already closed it. That's with the owl on Sunken Meadow Road, the property there.
Are you talking about Owl Hill?
Yeah.
That's at the end.
That's at the end.
Is it? Okay,
Yes.
I saw Sunken Meadow Road and I said, uh-oh. we
All right,
missed
so
it.
I'll call you first as soon as we get to that, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead. Sorry about that, Chairman. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think that we can just move on. In the matter of number 1187, map of Bassin Estates, I move that we close the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The hearing is closed, and in the matter of number 1187, map of Bassin Estates, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the planning department.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion is adopted.
The next item is a zone change petition recommendation to the town board for application number 2020-03 Nesconset Gas Heaven in St. James. The reason for the report: the planning board will conduct a public hearing on February 17th, 2021 to consider the above referenced petition to change the zoning of a site from light industry to wholesale and service industry. The applicant is Nesconset Gas Heaven Inc., 560 Middle Country Road in St. James. The site is 43,257 square feet, roughly 0.99 acres, and it's one tax lot. The site is developed with a filling station and accessory convenience store. The parcel has approximately 285 feet of frontage on Middle Country Road and 189 feet of frontage on Southern Boulevard. The site is relatively flat and is not located in any area of suspected high groundwater and not near any surface waters or wetlands. Filling stations are not permitted in the LI zoning district. However, the site received a certificate of existing use in 1998 from the BZA to permit a filling station in the LI zoning district. Just a minute. To the east, on the opposite side of the Southern Boulevard, is Zone WSI with a counter service restaurant. To the north, on the opposite side of Middle Country Road, is Zone WSI with a motor vehicle showroom. It's a Nissan Honda. To the west is Zone WSI with a motor vehicle showroom. And to the south is Zone LI with an office building. The zoning history: in 1932 was zoned A business. In 1949, Zone F business. In 1955, it was zoned light industry. 1998 is when the BZA issued the certificate of existing use. And in 2020, the zone change petition was filed with the town to change the site from LI to WSI. Proposal to change the zone district from LI to WSI in order to raise an existing accessory convenience store in order to construct a new 1,984 square foot convenience store, related parking, and truck loading space. The existing curb cuts, fueling islands, canopy, and underground storage tanks are to remain. The applicant will need a special exception from the BZA for a filling station with an accessory convenience sales. Section 322-82C7I limits the sizes of accessory convenience sales buildings to 1,250 square feet. The applicant is proposing a building 734 square feet larger than permitted. The increase in size will require a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. The planning consideration: the town comprehensive plan adopted in 1961 recommended that this area of town, the Southern Boulevard industrial area, be zoned LI due to the flat nature of the topography and easy access to the Smithtown bypass, Lake Avenue, Smithtown Boulevard, and Middle Country Road. Since the adoption of the 1961 master plan, many of the surrounding properties fronting Middle Country Road were rezoned to WSI due to the increased demand for auto-related, non-retail, and outdoor storage needs. Since the adoption of this plan, the town of Smithtown has worked on draft updates to the comprehensive plan, with the most recent one beginning in 2019. Although the draft update plan has not been adopted, it nevertheless is a product of the comprehensive analysis of the town's needs, constraints, and trends. The planning department has used draft updates to the comprehensive plan as a guide for reviewing past zone change petitions. Under the section St. James Community Plan, the 2020 Draft Comprehensive Plan Update analyzes the Middle Country Road corridor in St. James. It recommends rezoning this property along with other LI zones fronting Middle Country Road and Southern Boulevard to WSI. The change will right-size existing developments, such as this site, and continue to permit auto-related uses along Middle Country Road, where these uses are currently located. For these reasons, it appears the rezoning of this property will not have a negative impact on adjacent properties. Pursuant to Section 239M of General Municipal Law, this application was referred to the Suffolk County Planning Commission because the site is less than 500 feet from a state road. The Suffolk County Planning Commission considers this application to be a matter for local determination. They state a decision of local determination should not be construed as either an approval or disapproval. The recommendation, it is recommended that the planning board recommend the town board approve zone change petition 2020-03 Nesconset Gas Heaven Inc. for a change of zone from LI Light Industry to WSI Wholesale and Service Industry based on the following reasons and conditions. The reasons: 1, the proposed zone permits a land use that is existing and compatible with neighboring land uses along the Middle Country Road corridor. 2, the rezoning is consistent with the 2020 draft comprehensive plan update. 3, the rezoning would not tend to have a negative impact on adjacent properties. The condition is, one condition, approval of this zone change petition is not an approval or an endorsement of any subsequent requests to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special exception or variance applications. And I do have the wording for the actual resolution itself, the recommended resolution. So it would be Planning Board Resolution number blank 2021, recommendation for zone change petition 2020-03 Nesconset Gas Heaven Inc. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the zone change petition of Nesconset Gas Heaven Inc. to change the zone of Suffolk County Tax Map number 800-109-4-2.1 from LI Light Industry to WSI Wholesale and Service Industry, and has found that the proposed change of zone: 1, the proposed zone permits a land use that is existing and compatible with neighboring land uses along Middle Country Road corridor. 2, the rezoning is consistent with the 2020 draft comprehensive plan update. 3, the rezoning would not tend to have a negative impact on adjacent properties. Now therefore be it first resolved that the planning board hereby recommends that the town board approve zone change petition 2020-03 Nesconset Gas Heaven Inc. for a change of zone from LI to WSI, subject to the following condition. 1, approval of this zone change petition is not an approval or endorsement of any subsequent requests to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special exception or variance applications.
Thanks, Matt. Is there anyone representing the applicant who would like to be heard?
Chairwoman, I have John Armentano. I believe his hand is up for this application.
Yes, that is correct. Good evening, Mrs. Chairwoman, members of the board. My name is John Armentano. I am the attorney with Final Fritz, and we do represent the applicant. Not not to belabor the point, we concur completely with the staff recommendations, and we believe that this change of zone will be in keeping with the area and the community. And we appreciate your time on this matter, and we're available to answer any questions that you may have. But I believe the staff report speaks for itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Armentano. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? Does the board have any questions? Okay, hearing none. In the matter of zone change petition 2020-03, Nesconset Gas Heaven Incorporated, I move that we close the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I oppose. None. The hearing is closed. And in the matter of zone change petition 2020-03, Nesconset Gas Heaven Incorporated, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the planning department.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion is adopted.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just had to take down, the motion was from Barbara.
Yes,
You made the motion? For zone
Yes, I
changes,
did.
I gotta take down the motion in a second, so.
yes, sorry.
And Bill, you seconded, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the next item is a recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals for number 1191, map of Owl Hill Estates and Preserves in Fort Salonga. This matter involves a request from the Board of Zoning Appeals to the Planning Board to review and issue a recommendation regarding variances pending before the BZA for the above referenced subdivision. That's case number 18429. The applicant is requesting the following variances from the BZA. Permit environmentally sensitive land to be altered, that slopes in excess of 15%. The planning board has the authority to grant certain variances within subdivisions. However, pursuant to section 24831 of the subdivision regulations, the planning board does not have the authority to grant variances related to environmentally sensitive land. This application is an application to subdivide 27.62 acres into 18 single-family lots within the R43 zoning district. There's a single-family dwelling to remain on lot 16. Two of the lots are designated as affordable workforce housing pursuant to the Long Island Workforce Housing Act. The subdivision is required to be clustered pursuant to section 24831 of the subdivision regulations. Therefore, the applicant is proposing a cluster design. This design concentrates development on one portion of the property while preserving a substantial amount of land throughout the remainder of the subdivision. The applicant is proposing to preserve 6.4 acres in addition to the existing 3.25 acres preserved. That's a total of 9.65 acres. It appears an additional 2 acres can be preserved along the southern portion of lot 16. The yield of this property, in strict compliance with the subdivision regulations and zoning ordinance, is 2 lots. In order to construct the proposed road, recharge basin, and several of the dwellings, the applicant requires a variance from the BZA in order to alter environmentally sensitive land, slopes in excess of 15%. Article 16, Section 2776 of Town Law authorizes the BZA to grant area variances within a subdivision, but requires the BZA request a written recommendation from the planning board concerning the proposed variances. Town law does not describe the criteria that the planning board is supposed to use in developing a recommendation to the BZA. However, it seems likely that the recommendation should be based around the planning board's core mission regarding subdivision approval, that centers on the adequacy of access and infrastructure, and to evaluate whether the subject property can be used safely for building purposes without danger to health or peril from fire, flood, drainage, or other menace to neighboring properties, or the public health, safety, and welfare. This recommendation does not examine the requested variances with respect to the 5 variance criteria described in section 267B of town law, as the BZA is tasked with evaluating the requested variances with respect to those criteria. The planning department has reviewed the variance request and offers the following comments. 1, it appears most of the disturbance of the environmentally sensitive land is for the proposed road off Sunken Meadow Road. This allows the applicant to gain access to the interior of the site, where the site is more level. The applicant could limit disturbance and convert the existing driveway on lot 16 to a road. However, this is not recommended due to the intersection of Sunken Meadow Road and Meadow Glen Road having poor site visibility of cars. 2, it appears the proposed cul-de-sac off Sunken Meadow Road provides adequate access, drainage, and infrastructure to the proposed homes. The board may want to consider other drainage alternatives to a recharge basin in order to preserve additional steep slopes and trees. 3, in order to preserve additional ESL and provide a buffer to adjacent residents to the north, the planning department recommends a 50-foot conservation easement along the north property line of lots 7, 8, 9, and 16. 4, it appears the proposed subdivision is consistent with other cluster subdivisions approved by the planning board in Fort Salonga containing environmentally sensitive land with respect to the size, number of lots, size of lots, and preserved area. Those subdivisions are Rochelle Heights and Punch Bowl. Compared to the other 2 subdivisions, the Owl Hill subdivision is roughly the same size and acreage, has less total number of lots, and has larger average lot sizes than the Rochelle Heights and Punch Bowl subdivisions. They all preserve roughly the same amount of land. The Owl Hill subdivision has the potential to preserve additional property as mentioned above. The planning department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Planning board resolution number blank 2021. Board of Zoning Appeals recommendation for number 1191, map of Owl Hill Estates and Preserve. Whereas the planning board has considered the request from the Board of Zoning Appeals for a recommendation regarding variances associated with the subdivision number 1191, map of Owl Hill Estates and Preserve. Now therefore be it first resolved that the planning board hereby recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the variances associated with the subdivision number 1191, map of Owl Hill Estates and Preserve, subject to the following conditions. 1, the subdivision shall be clustered. 2, in order to preserve additional environmentally sensitive land and provide a buffer to adjacent residents, a 50-foot conservation easement shall be placed along the north property line of lots 7, 8, 9, and 16. 3, drainage alternatives to a recharge basin should be considered in order to preserve additional steep slopes and trees. 4, preserving additional acreage on the southern portion of lot 16 should be considered. 5, the total number of dwellings inclusive of workforce housing shall not exceed 18. Second, resolved that this recommendation pertains solely to the variance request before the Board of Zoning Appeals and not to the proposed lot layout, extent of regrading, building location, public improvements, and other aspects of subdivision design within the purview of the planning board. And third, resolved that nothing contained herein shall be construed or deemed as implicitly or explicitly approving or endorsing on the merits any subsequent request for approval of any subdivision for this property, whether or not the request arises out of any variances granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals for said property.
Thank you, Matt. Is there anyone representing the applicant who would like to speak tonight?
I have Vinnie Tremarco here. Let me just ask him to unmute himself. Give him a second here. There you go.
Mr. Tramarko?
I'm here.
Hey,
Hi,
would you like to speak on this application tonight?
I would briefly. Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavits of posting to the planning department pursuant to your rules this afternoon. I probably couldn't have said it better than the planning department has done already. And I'd just like to add a few things. Obviously, we're in agreement with all of the planning department's recommendations. This is the result of 6, 7, or 8 meetings that we've had in the past with planning in order to get the right type of subdivision for this area. You can see that the planning department has done a comparison of 2 other subdivisions. One is Rochelle Heights, and Rochelle Heights had 25 lots with a total area of 26.2 acres. Punch Bowl, which we did many years ago now, had 29 acres and got 23 lots. And of course, Owl Hill, 27.6 acres. And we're asking for 18 lots. As the board well knows, a clustered subdivision cannot ask for more lots than what would be allowed if it were a normal, in this case, 1 acre subdivision. So we had to submit a yield map. And that yield map, which I believe you have as part of your folder, would indicate that the yield is 18 lots, which includes workforce housing, where we propose the workforce housing is on 25A. But again, if you look at the yield map, it would require a road going through from Sunken Meadow Road all the way to Yorktown Place. In other words, we would start at either Sunken Meadow or Yorktown Place, run that road halfway through, and then come in with a cul-de-sac, go down the road a little further, and come in with another cul-de-sac, and then come out on Meadow Road. This would require a lot more use of the land for private purposes, whereas here we have 9.5 acres and maybe a little more. If we give a little more from lot 16, which we can discuss with the planning department and ultimately your board, that would even increase it maybe an acre or two, I don't know. But the point is, the cluster is the best example of the use for this property. If you look at that map, and I think it's probably up on the board, the cluster is to one side of the property. The only ingress and egress to the 15 lots is on the road coming from Sunken Meadow, going up sort of a winding type road, ending in a cul-de-sac with no ingress and egress other than Sunken Meadow Road. So there'll be no ingress from Yorktown. The whole clustering is towards the south side of the property. Also, it was again brought out by planning that there's a conservation easement on the south side of the property. It kind of goes around and all the way around up to the back of the property. And then you have the estate piece, which is just one lot and a rather large lot at that. And then that whole conservation area known as Area 1. So we think this is the best example of good planning, and it certainly was recommended by the planning department. And our engineers worked with planning, as I said, for a number of meetings in order to come up with this type of application. We also believe that it does follow the mission of the planning board, which is the health, safety, and welfare of the community, including providing for drainage and other public safety and health issues. So we asked the board for its favorable recommendation, that recommendation, which is sponsored by the planning department. And if the board has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. We do have our engineer on board at the hearing if you have any questions that I can't answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tramarko. Is there anyone here who would like to be heard on this matter?
Barbara, I have one question, please. What are they doing with the waste? Are we doing septic, cesspools, or are they gonna have their own little plant up there?
Mr. Tramarko?
Yes, it'll be septics. It must be approved by the health department. The amount of excess land, 9.5 acres, more than conforms and helps with the requirement, which is only 20,000 square feet per lot. We have double that. So we have no issues with the health department. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Vince.
Any questions? Anybody else out there who would like to be heard on this
Yes.
matter?
Chairman,
Yes.
yes, I'll begin by going down the line with Irene first. Go ahead,
Thank you.
Irene.
Okay, Eddie,
My name is Ed Nielsen. I've lived in Fort Salonga since 1965. I've seen proposals to widen Bread and Cheese Hollow Road, do away with the country store and put a shopping center in there. I've seen them talking about putting a track on the south side of Pulaski, and all it does is keep whittling down on the quality of life in Fort Salonga. I've heard all the excuses of, oh, we're going to put a hedge there and you won't see it, or we'll put 2 stone pillars on it. We have tremendous amount of traffic on Sunken Meadow Road from the school they put in. That's been there since I've been here, came after I'm here, from the VA hospital cutting through. Now, I understand it's 27, 26 acres. What we're trying to do now is we got a home run here. we bought 26 acres, that's acres owned, and we can build houses probably 3,500 square feet on a half acre. So what it comes down to was profit. It's all about money. If they're each house, just say we can put in 20 houses there now. We can put in 2 cars for each driveway. So that would be another 40 cars coming out. And pretty soon we'll be putting a traffic light down there. I've seen the quality here go down and down and down. And every time it's all about the buck. We bought the property, acres owned. Oh, you know what we can do? We can get it half acre zoned, and we can put a 3,500 square foot house in there. Pretty soon they'll be on top of one another. I'm all opposed to this. I've seen it through the years, through my 55 years here, keep chiseling down on the property size. I don't mind if you put a dormer there because your mother-in-law is 80 years old and it just affected that little piece of property with a little extension on the roof. But as far as putting almost double the houses on a property that's that zoned for 1 acre, now we're going to try and do it for half acre. And what we're doing is, it's all about the dollar. It has nothing to do with quality of the neighborhood or the community or what it's been through the years. I just see it keep deteriorating and deteriorating. Well, I've said my little piece. I may not even be around when this development comes into effect, but I'd like you to know that I'm certainly opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, I'm gonna hand it over to our Fort Salonga Association, Mr. McCartney. And I'll just, before you speak, I just want to remind everyone who wishes to be heard to utilize the raise hand function. It's again, the push reactions. If you hit the reaction button, you'll see the raise hand button. If you're on an older model of Zoom, you might have to click on participants and it'll be on your lower right-hand side. If you can't find the chat, if you can't find the raise hand button, you can utilize chat. I'll call you in the order that you've been received. And if you're on a phone, you can hit *9. All right, and go ahead, Mr. McCartney.
Okay, good evening. Thank you very much. Mr. Trimarco, you made a couple of comments during your little speech there. First of all, you said easements on, or more easements on 7, 8, 9, and 16. Can you tell me how you're going to do that and remain with the proper lot size?
Madam Chairman, do you want me to address that or wait until the end?
Mr. Trimarco, you're right. I think we should wait until the end so you can address all the speakers' comments at that one time. So if that would be okay.
That would be fine.
Anyone who does want to speak, if you can just limit your to addressing your comments to the board, I would appreciate it. And then at the end, Mr. Trimarco will gladly answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Okay, so he also mentioned that there were 6, 7, 8 meetings with the planning board. Can I ask how many meetings the Fort Salonga Association was invited to those meetings? How many times?
Again,
I'm asking the planning board right now.
Actually, the planning board itself, we don't have the exact specifications of this whole application to know exactly how many times that the engineer would meet. That would all be addressed by Mr. Trimarco at the end, and we really would appreciate it if you can hold on to that. I know it's frustrating, but if you can just hold on to the end, I'm sure that Mr. Trimarco will be taking notes.
That was a question for the board. That was a question for the board.
Yes, but in that case, again, Mr. Trimarco would have to address that comment.
Okay. Are you in receipt of the letter sent this afternoon to the board?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Can I read it into the file?
Sure.
Okay. Board members, it has recently come to our attention that the planning board has put the proposed Owl Hill development project on tonight's docket. We do not know if this was intentional, as this short notice occurs during a holiday week, making it difficult to inform and allow all interested parties to attend. In the not so distant past, the town and state of New York Office of Parks and Historical Preservation had previously earmarked $1 million in grants to preserve acreage on this property. Unfortunately, the longtime owners sold the property after they could not come to an agreement as to a fair value per acre. Since that time, the property has been sold to a developer who himself has signed a letter of intent to preserve the property via Suffolk County. We feel that the town should hold off and allow more time for conservation efforts to come to fruition. Owl Hill is obviously worthy of preservation as it has been deemed so by the town, state, and now county. In addition, the estate / home is at the property is on the town's list of historic homes. Throughout the years, Smithtown officials and departments have worked well with the Fort Salonga Association, with many instances to keep the existing 1 acre zoning in place. Fort Salonga has a rich history, as well as being a beautiful community to live in. And by the board allowing the developer, in essence, to change Fort Salonga, the current plan as presented should not be allowed or permitted. We would allow for a serious wedge to develop between the town and the Fort Salonga Association. The hamlet of Fort Salonga, with over 2,300 families living on properties that have been zoned 1 acre for countless years, they moved here for a reason. The owner of Owl Hill property is attempting to change that in the face of Fort Salonga forever by asking for unrealistic zoning variances, including half-acre lots, flag lots, lack of necessary environmental buffers, and undersized lots. In addition, the developer has signed a letter of intent to preserve the property, where the current yield for the property is 2 homes. To go from 2 to 18 will take an extraordinary number of variances, creating zoning maneuvering. The property lies on land with underground streams, has a high water table, and is frequently affected by flooding. It is understanding that the proper secret testing, which is an absolute necessity, will not be required. In bypassing this important step, it is in fact will allow other similar projects within Smithtown the precedence to do likewise. Does the planning board want to open up that can of worms? This is an absolute necessity, and the Fort Salonga Association insists that all full environmental review take place before moving forward based on the property's environmental impact on the surrounding areas. The plan calls for the provisions of some undeveloped acreage. In other words, the developer is using undeveloped land as a trading chip in exchange for higher yield. In addition, there is no mention of extra green space for the community. The property currently has several TDR, transfer of development rights, lots. Excuse me, along the border of the adjacent Colony Hills subdivision. The town should require that this green space be expanded to run the length of the property. Typically, with a project of this magnitude, the developer reaches out to the community to work together in order to have a project that fits in with the existing landscape. The builder wants to secure a multitude of variances. The town should require that he sit down with the neighborhood and figure out a plan that works for his neighbors. At the moment, the plan has been submitted without any regard for the neighborhood. The 2 affordable homes on the proposed subdivision map are on flag lots. For decades, it has been the policy of the planning department and the planning board to frown upon and deny flag lots subdivisions. The board should honor its own precedent, requiring the owner to remove these homes or restructure the map. It's because the developer has yet to communicate with anyone in the community or its civic organization, the Fort Salonga Association, that any proposed zoning changes are being brought before you tonight, disregarding the community it is situated within. I would potentially be a better plan, I'm sorry, it would be a better plan if it were to include people from the community who would be affected, though to date, no attempt has been made. The planning board is charged with the duty of protecting property values and maintaining the quality of life for all citizens within the town of Smithtown and the hamlet of Fort Salonga. As constituted, the current plan ignores the environment and conservation of green space, but it permits offensive items such as half-acre zoning and flag lots. We ask that the planning board exercise its best judgment and move forward with a plan that preserves and protects Fort Salonga. Let us remind the board that Fort Salonga straddles two towns. As such, it is imperative that we review and compare similar subdivision application made before the planning board in Huntington. It would be remiss of this board to ignore Granite Estates, located off Red and Cheese Hollow Road in Fort Salonga on the Huntington border. Granite Estates is a 22.9 acre plot with a mansion on it, a near identical comparison to Owl Hill. The Town of Huntington Planning Board denied the developer's plan for half-acre lots submitted on April 19th, 2017. The builder went back to the drawing board and engineered a plan that met 1 acre zone guidelines and still conserved 9.25 acres via a conservation easement. We ask that the town's planning department take Granite Estates into account when reviewing the Owl Hill application. Based on the many years of due diligence on your part, the Fort Salonga Association is adamant you do your civic duty by not approving the current subdivision as it is constituted. Please exercise your better judgment and help us work together with the property owner to preserve and maintain the beauty of Owl Hill as it represents a beautiful green gateway to the hamlet of Fort Salonga. Sincerely, Keith McCartney, President, Fort Salonga Association.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Yes, I have Ryan Hild.
Okay.
Okay. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Okay, okay, wonderful. Good evening, Madam Chairman and members of the board. My name is Ryan Hild. I live at 4 Yorktown Place in Fort Salonga, basically on the other side of Owl Hill. My neighbors and I, my property doesn't directly abut the property, but two neighboring properties or neighbors of mine do, and dear friends of mine, a great deal of their property abut this property. I after getting word that the $1 million in grants ended up going by the wayside, my subdivision, my friends within this Colony Hills subdivision over here, we all kind of had a feeling that the property would likely be sold or was going to be sold, and honestly likely developed. As a real estate attorney myself, in no way am I a person who is against all development of all kinds by any means. I'm I would say, a reasonable person. I look at the plan together with neighbors, and at the moment, the way that it's constituted off of Sunken Meadow Road is I would say beneficial or better than some of the other options. After looking at after reviewing the yield and taking a look at the property for true development purposes, understanding that we have a yield at current of 2 buildable lots, and the applicant is going for 18. It makes you kind of step back and say, okay, what do we got? Well, I'll just say this. As Keith had mentioned, I do feel that the planning board is charged with the duty of protecting property values and maintaining the quality of life for all citizens in the town of Smithtown. especially within my beloved Fort Salonga, where I live. Taking a look at the plan as it is, the half acres is a little, it just seems to be, I'll just use the word, is a little piggish. Just seems to be much. Again, I'm not saying that this property is going to sit undeveloped, or it should, but the way that it's set up right now, it just sort of seems like the developer is sort of going for not just a home run, but a grand slam to get pretty much every inch that he can out of it. I also sit on the board with the Fort Salonga Association, and I can also reiterate what Keith said. Typically for projects of this magnitude, the planning department recommends that the developer reach out to the neighbors or the civic association, just to sort of get a feel and maybe put something together here that makes everybody, that everyone can feel a little better about. I would really welcome that. I would really hope that the developer really takes heed and does that for the community, because at the end of the day, many of us, we're all neighbors, and I do think that is very important. I will say, very oddly, with the plan, that there's a flag lot. In all my years in Smithtown, that it's usually something that is frowned upon, rejected pretty much offhand, or almost as a matter of course. And this property has a flag lot with two homes on it. I understand that those are the affordables, but I don't know. I mean, the idea here again is to protect and maintain property values, not just to jam everything that we can in. And two affordable units on a flag lot is not exactly an example of helping maintain the look and feel and property value of Fort Salonga. There's a lot of issues here. I really wish we had the opportunity to speak with the builder, because I do think that at the end of the day, something could be ultimately hammered out. And I would hope that the planning board here would recommend that they meet with us and the neighbors before making any real decisions. With that, I leave you by just asking also that there be a secret review, and to advise the planning board and the Mr. Tramarko that the conservation easement is a must, and is a great start, and is something that I really would sort of hopefully look forward to discussing. Again, thank you to the board and everyone who came out for this tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Hild. Would anybody else like to be heard?
Yes, I have Peter and Sarah next. I hope I said your name right.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Hi, Peter and Sarah, 19 Williamsburg Drive. I'm on the corner of Williamsburg and Yorktown. I would be at the bottom of the hill next to my neighbor, Ryan Hild. And I'd just like to echo what Ryan said, my other neighbors, and the president of the Fort Salonga Association, so I won't belabor those points. But I would have a couple of quick questions that you could answer at the end. And one would be the builder, the gentleman developer mentioned, I guess, a 50-foot easement or buffer between the homes, new homes, and Yorktown, and they mentioned a few lots there. So I would be interested in what that's going to consist of, and is that going to be leveled? Because that land over there, it butters on my backyard through the side, is extremely hilly. It's I don't know how they develop it, but it's extremely hilly and rolling hills. And being at the bottom of that, I've already had experience. I had to develop my whole property where I've had to put at least 3 different water drainage systems there. If you ever come to that area, you'll see where my home is. I'm on the corner. So I have the major concern that those underground streams and the water flows off of that hill, it comes right behind our backyards. It comes through the front there. So I would be concerned about what a builder was going to do and how that was going to work out. I have another neighbor, Peter, that's up there also. And just also about you mentioned, one of the people mentioned the septic systems and however that works, which I have no clue. There any consideration to all that tidal water that's over there? Wouldn't that be somewhat environmentally sensitive? That's right on the corner there of 25A and Sunken Meadow Road. That looks like it abuts right next to that area, and there is some homes there. So that would be my major concerns. Again, thank you for your time. And I would agree with Ryan there that it would be great to be able to meet with the developers to iron out some of these issues. I'm very happy about the entrance that was developed, I think, with sensitive to the area, and if we heard that correctly, maybe 9+ acres of preservation, which is also great news. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. and Sarah. Would anybody else like to be heard?
Yes, I have legislator Rob Trotta with us.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for having me. I just want to say quickly that while the owner, all he did was he put in that we could appraise, the county will appraise the property and maybe make him an offer, but that will be sometime in the future, probably at least a year away. And also, I agree with a lot of what people said that, they should meet with the community. There's no reason why the developer shouldn't sit down with them and go over the details. I remember not too long ago, we had this where a vineyard wanted to go in there and they were basically scared away in 20 minutes. And now I bet everyone would love to have that vineyard back because there would have been no houses and it would have been preserved. And you wouldn't have seen anything from the roadway. But again, I just hope the developer would meet with the community, with the Fort Salonga Association, talk about what can be done. And maybe I did walk that property when the Ryans owned it, and there's a lot of water, a lot of wet areas, which I was surprised because it was so hilly. But again, it's going to be at least a year, I would think, before the appraisal will be done, and then an offer made after that point, which I'm not sure the developer would even accept at this point. So good luck.
Thank you, Legislator Trotter. Anybody else who would like to be heard?
Yes, I have Frank Capaccio.
Okay.
Yes, good evening, Board. Frank Capaccio. How are you? I live at 3 Churchill Road in Fort Salonga, and I am a member of the Fort Salonga Association as well. And what I'd like to restrict my marks to is the yield situation. And knowing this property for years and years, having worked on it, heard many claims with Mr. Trotta, along with Ryan Hild, and working with the old owners, the Ryan family, we really had hope to preserve. But we're realists and we understand that property is developed and this property is going to be developed. And we only feel that we should develop it in accordance with our current laws and statutes. And the way we have discussed this over the years is having a 2 yield. We met with developers that were talking about making this boutique cottages and turning it into 5 or 6 different properties. And we were very excited about that. As Legislator Trotter said, there was talking about keeping it as agricultural and turning it into a vineyard. There was talk of having a halfway house there. So the property has really went a lot of ways that we could try and conserve it. But now it was bought, it was traded, and we have to deal with the facts that are presented in front of us. They have a right to develop the land. And our concerns are really what the yield of the property is. We feel that when you started with 28 acres, and there was naturally 10 of them due to slope and water and various environmentals, you couldn't even develop, that we started with 18. And preserving the 1 acre zoning, and we appreciate the cluster, but we're looking for a lower yield. We feel that the yield is excessive, that if you were to take in a plan and you would overlay and say, how many single family houses could I do on this? I don't see where you could fit in 18. And we feel that the environmental studies would produce this. And, also speaking on the environmentals, I think we as a society, as a nation, we're trying to get even more conservative from the laws of 1990. And I understand the punch bowl. I personally feel it was overdeveloped, as well as the other property. I don't think those are properly developed with the neighborhood. And we really feel that the yield should be addressed and looked into, as well as let's see what the environmental is. I would hope that the town could come up with some money, but I too think that cow is out of the barn, and we're trying to close the gate now. For the first time in history, Smithtown was going to come up with some money, and unfortunately, we couldn't execute it. And then finally, and it's a sensitive thing, I believe in affordable housing. I think there is an oxymoron saying there's an affordable house in Fort Salonga. I'm glad to report that. I think they're building two houses that are going to go on a flag lot, which I do oppose also for this area. I would really like to see these development rights taken into a community that can use affordable housing, and have these rights transferred into a spot in Smithtown where you could put in housing that's going to go for 400,000. My understanding is these houses are going to go for $1.2 million to $1.5 million, and that you get 20% off that. I don't call an affordable house 800,000. Of course, we always look forward to working with our new neighbors and finding out what we have in common with them, so that once we find out what we have in common, then our differences seem a little less. So we're very concerned about the environment. We know this is a beautiful property. The historic home is very important to us, but we just feel that the yield is excessive, and that if we could work on that, we understand my property, Ryan's property, anybody's property in here can't be the last one developed, unless it was. I don't want to see people starting taking 1.2 acres and trying to split them. So I thank the board for your time. We appreciate your consideration of this matter, but the bottom line is we feel the yield is a little heavy starting out with the outlay, and we do feel that the environmental has to be addressed a little further. So thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Capaccio. Would anybody else like to be heard?
Chairman, I don't have anyone else with their hand. Oh, I have Mr. McCartney again.
Okay. Mr. McCartney?
Give him a second, hit unmute there. There you go.
Right, I formally request that the board table this matter until a proper secra is completed and presented to the board.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
I don't have anybody with their hand up. I'll just remind everyone again, we'll do a last call to use the raise a hand button. You can hit the reactions button, and when you press that, you'll see a raise hand button appear. If you're on a older version of Zoom, you want to hit participants. That will set that little sidebar on your lower right hand corner there, that you'll see there's also a place to raise your hand. If you're on a phone, on a telephone, you can hit *9. And if all else fails, you can use the chat function. So I still don't see anybody with their hand up. I will hand it back over to you, Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Tramarko, did you want to address any of the comments that were made by the speakers?
Yes, Madam Chairman, very briefly. I guess I wasn't clear. It's my fault. I'm going to try and be clearer this time. When we asked for 18 lots and the planning department approved 18 lots, neither the planning department nor, I believe, the planning board could grant us more than what our yield map showed. Our yield map showed 18 lots. So our yield is not more than what we're getting with the clustered zoning. So that's the first issue, and I hope that's clear. We're not getting any more than we could have gotten had we not used cluster, and by the way, when we first went in there, this was a suggestion made by the planning department, and I think a good suggestion to cluster. Secondly, when you talk about the possibility of the county buying, and I respect Mr. Trotter's candor, it's probably a long way away. We weren't not open to an offer. Of course, the county would have to do an appraisal, but that's a long way off. The point that I wanted to make is right now, there's at least 9.6 acres that's going to be left in its natural state, probably given to the town or the county for free. So nobody has to buy anything. This is part of a proposal that we make with respect to this application. The estate house on lot 16 is about, I think about 6 acres. I'm not sure, but there was a recommendation from planning that we could shave maybe a few acres off of that and leave that as part of the buffering and natural area. We really don't want to do a regular subdivision, not only because it's more extensive, but it does create a through street from Yorktown right to Sunken Meadow. It would be the only way to do it, and we'd have 2 cul-de-sacs. This way, everything is pushed to one side. There are conservation easements on the south side, and certainly on the north side, there's a very big piece. The gentleman that mentioned the workforce housing, we could look into that possibility to see if there's some other area that we would have to buy. We would certainly have to buy that property. But then again, when you do that, or you even have workforce housing, you're entitled to get extra lots, which in this case, we did the minimum, what's allowed. And we're still giving the workforce housing, which we have to under the law. Finally, with respect to sanitary and water conditions, that's all investigated by the town engineering department, the county health department. And we're only at the beginning, and that beginning is simply asking the Board of Zoning Appeals, by the recommendation from the planning board, to grant one variance. That's environmentally sensitive land. That's the only variance we're asking for from the planning, from the BZA. So we thank the board for their consideration, and that's it for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tramarko. I'm aware that there is one other person who would like to speak on this matter. Are you welcome to speak?
Yes, Sarah Couts from Preservation, Long Island.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Couts. I'm the Preservation Director at Preservation Long Island. We are the regional nonprofit that advocates for historic preservation in Nassau and Suffolk County. I just want to agree with my friends and colleagues at the Fort Salonga Association. We generally concur with all the points they raised. And I would like to further recommend that if anything at all is decided, it definitely needs to be decided after a full environmental impact statement is conducted. And among other things, it's because of this historic, cultural, natural, archaeologically sensitive parcel. So in addition to this beautiful house that is surviving, which was designed by an architect named Henry Killam Murphy, who was best known in East Asia, where he designed many, many college campuses. And he's sort of one of the fathers, if you will, of Western architecture in China, Japan, and Korea. And to this very day, he is still celebrated as someone who is very influential to architecture in East Asia. So we might not be so familiar with his name, but in other places in the world, especially East Asia, he is very, very famous and very significant for his contributions. And this building is, and really the whole property is one of the few surviving intact properties of his early period where he was working on these residential commissions. So a very, very special, very important site in terms of the history and the architecture, but also as everybody knows, this area on the North Shore is so sensitive for Native American sites. So especially on this hilltop sort of site where you're overlooking the fresh water of Sunken Meadow Creek, you're not far from Nissaquag, you're not far from the Long Island Sound. This is a really, really sensitive place for archaeology. So as part of the environmental impact statement, we would recommend an archaeological assessment, maybe even testing to see if there's a site, and also to see if there are graves. Something we find often on the North Shore on these really high prominent sites are Native American burials. And some of you may be familiar, there's some sort of complicating things over at Indian Hill Golf Course, the proposal to redevelop that, which is over in the town of Huntington, but still it's not too far. So again, with a property like this that's so sort of pristine and undeveloped, we have a lot of sensitivity for archaeological sites, including graves, which are extremely sensitive, of course. So again, I just want to reiterate a full environmental impact statement before any kind of decision could be made would be very, very important, and make sure that we're not having any adverse impacts on any potential resources that could potentially be destroyed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Katz.
Madam Chairman, I apologize. There was one other gentleman before Mr. Tramarko had gotten up to speak. Do you mind just giving him?
Not at all, not
Okay.
at all. Anyone's welcome to speak.
Okay, Peter, I'm gonna butcher your last name. Peter, I'm just gonna lower your hand. Go ahead.
Just Peter is fine.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Mikowayuk. I am the neighbor, which is on 5 Yorktown Place, and I am the last person on the block who would be button against property number 8 and number 9. I just want to put some things into perspective, how close those homes will be located. The house that's across from me, which is number 6, is approximately 210 feet from my house to the corner of their property, to their homes. Home number 8, which will be on the other side of my fence, will be 112 feet to the corner of my home, and number 9 will be about 120 feet. So those homes are a lot closer than I think this map shows. They are, I will say, 20 feet on top of a hill, elevated. So both of those properties will look down on me. There is no, per se, wooden barrier that will prevent me or those two owners from seeing me, from having my kids in the back on a barbecue or a pool. And it's not, I think, it would just jam things up. It's very generous of Mr. Tramarko to say that he will donate the rest of the lands to the town and to the county, but to comment on that is that area would be useless anyway. There are wetlands there. There is just nothing that they can be done with the balance of the property. So what they've done in this case is they jammed 18 homes into an area that they can actually do something with, and it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to bring in any preservation to the owls that we hear, to the deers that we see, and the natural wildlife. So I would say that 1 acre, 1 acre zoning should be also presented in this case, and um, keeping the Fort Salonga as a 1 acre zone minimum. Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Mikolayuk. Anybody else?
No, I don't have any other hands up.
Okay, does the board have any questions? Okay, then in the matter of number 1191, map of Owl Hill Estates and Preserve, I move that we close the hearing.
Second.
Can I ask
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The hearing is closed.
if I may, Mr. Tremarco did not respond to my questions.
I guess Mr. Tremarco, in this case, will allow Mr. Tremarco to address any questions at this point.
Madam Chairwoman, this is Vincent Tremarco Senior. Junior. Senior had to run out to another hearing that's not virtual, unfortunately. I don't know what specific questions the gentleman is referring to. I think Mr. Tremarco Senior was very thorough in his presentation. But if I can be helpful, if you want to reiterate those questions.
Okay, and having the 6, 7, 8 meetings with the planning board, why was not the Fort Salonga Association included?
That wouldn't be something that our client or us as their attorney would be involved with. I'm sure there were postings on the property and public notices that the Fort Salonga Association could have availed themselves of, and questions answered at those meetings or to the planning board directly.
Unfortunately, those postings were not up for the individual meetings that you had one-on-one with the board. So,
Well, that's not a requirement, sir. So we're doing what's required by the law.
nice if you would include the community, the developer would include the community in what they're trying to do.
I don't think Mr. Tremarco was reticent to including the community as we move forward with this application. I think that's inevitable, and our client is open to have those meetings.
Okay, the other question that I did have was on lots 6, 7, 8, and 16, where they recommended increasing the size of the buffer. How big would that make the lots for those individual properties? Would they bring it down to 1/4 acre instead of half?
I
would defer to planning on that
It would
one.
be a conservation easement on the property, so it would be owned by the property owner with an easement on it to conserve it.
Okay, so are the questions all?
Yeah, that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And again, we already made that one motion to close the hearing. That would stand. We all voted on it, and the hearing is closed. And then on the motion and resolution in the matter of number 1191, map of Owl Hill Estates and Preserve, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the planning department.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion is adopted. Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
And now, the last business that we have tonight is a motion to adjourn. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.